This is the agenda for tonight's session on Votebuilder and using it to manage your volunteer program. I'll talk about the My Campaigns part of Votebuilder just a little bit, and then divide it up into the kinds of activities you might be doing: recruiting volunteers, managing your volunteer roster, and event management, event follow-up activities. As we wrap up, I'll share some additional resources. So jumping into my campaigns, and I always like to share these tips for Vote Builder. I've been using Vote Builder for 5 or 6 years now. I'm always learning new things, and I have found that these principles are helpful for people. It takes patience, practice, and experimentation. So it does take more than an hour to learn Vote Builder. I have found that the more I use it, the easier it gets and the faster I get. There are some tasks that I do on a really regular basis that I'm able to do very quickly now. But when I'm trying to learn a new skill or try a new task, it takes more time. Also, there's more than one way to do things in Vote Builder. So I'm going to share how I accomplish certain tasks. There might be another method that would get you the same result. No big deal. We will experiment and try things and see what works because you really can't break Vote Builder. So one way I have learned a lot of what I know about Vote Builder is just trying out things. Within Vote Builder, and if you've attended the previous trainings or if you've been using it for a while, there are two basically sides of Vote Builder. My Voters, which is really primarily used to engage with registered voters, have conversations about voting, turning out to vote, things like that. And then there is the My Campaign part of Vote Builder, which is about managing your volunteer program. Most of tonight will be focused on the My Campaign part of Vote Builder. As a quick reminder, anyone can be a volunteer. There are, of course, limits to who can vote. There are limits to who can donate money to campaigns. When it comes to donating time, those limits don't exist. So people who are not eligible to be a voter, maybe they're not old enough, maybe they're not a US citizen, they can volunteer. People who are from out of state can help us in North Carolina. And because North Carolina is such a battleground state, we get an influx of volunteers from other states. They can absolutely volunteer and help us here. So when you're thinking about volunteers, remember you can think a little broader than you think about for voters. If you like to have multiple screens going and you want to follow along, or for people who are later watching this video or following along on the slides, this is a point where you might want to log into Vote Builder and follow along with some of the skills and activities that I'm going to share next. One thing I want to point out right off the bat for My Campaigns, this is the screenshot when you log in and you go to the My Campaigns portion of Vote Builder. I've drawn a red box around the button that says Volunteer Management. That section of Vote Builder has some good information and easy ways to pull information. So some of the screenshots will come from content that you might find in that volunteer management portion of Vote Builder. Okay, I'm going to talk about recruiting volunteers and some tips and tricks for doing that, how you might want to pull lists to recruit volunteers, things like that. But I'm going to pause before I move on and say, what questions do you have? If you want to type in the chat, if you want to come off mute, this is a good opportunity to ask a question. All right, I'm not seeing anything, so I'm going to move on. If you're in the middle of typing, keep typing. I'll answer it when I see it. So when it comes to recruiting volunteers, my first piece of advice here, whether it's Vote Builder or beyond, is to start where you are. You might already have people who you consider your volunteers, and maybe they aren't yet in Vote Builder, as an example. So jump in wherever you are on your path for recruiting and building your volunteer base. I forgot to ask in the introductions. I'm interested if any of the people attending today are running for office or if you're primarily county party or precinct leaders. And whether you are, if you are a county party leader and maybe you're new in your role or you're a new vote builder user for your county, you will be inheriting information that probably already lives in MyCampaigns. However, if you are a candidate and you are starting a brand new campaign in Vote Builder, your MyCampaigns section will start off empty. And if you are starting out and your My Campaigns section is not already populated, here are some tips for getting your volunteers into Vote Builder so you can manage that program. These are also some things you might want to do if you are a county party leader and your county hasn't really been using Vote Builder to manage your volunteer program yet. For example, you might have spreadsheets with lists of volunteers and names and contact information. Maybe you send out an email newsletter and you've got a list of the people who get that email newsletter. You've probably had people attend events before, so you might have an event sign up list. Maybe you have a general interest form on your website for volunteers. You've got contacts in your phone. Wherever you have information on people who either have volunteered for you or you think might want to and that you can recruit, I encourage you to get that information into MyCampaigns to manage your program. Now, I do see we have at least one person here who's running for office. Awesome. Um, if you're someone running for office, because you're starting with a brand new instance of MyCampaigns and it's not already pre-populated, you might want to give a little bit of thought to how big of a volunteer team you might have for your race. And this might depend on the size of your community, how many registered voters are potentially voting in your race. If you're going to have a team of 5 people as volunteers, this might be overkill for you, but especially for my county party leaders, for precinct leaders who are here, this data continues to live year after year. So please, I encourage you to invest the time and energy in building this out. If you're looking at that list, your spreadsheets, your email signups, people who have attended your events in the past, I'm going to show you how to find those people in Vote Builder, see if they're in MyCampaigns, add them there. If they are not, this is a good investment of your time as a county party or precinct leader. Particularly right now, it's the summer in an odd number year. The pace of work right now is a little lighter than it might be this time next year, or it might be this fall when we go into municipal elections. I'm going to show you how to do this data entry. If you are just starting out, let's say I've talked to someone recently who's going to run for a city council seat in Charlotte and there are 80,000 voters. That person has also run for office before, and that's a big race they're going to be running. They might have 150 volunteers who helped them with their previous campaign. That might be something you want to have a conversation with Harmon, our data director, on. If you've got a large chunk of people to add to Vote Builder, he might be able to help you with uploading whole spreadsheets instead of doing this the way I'm going to show you, which is like onesie twosie. Harmon, anything you want to add on that?
Only thing I would be adding is essentially county parties. You're going to see people in your My Campaign right now. And so this is a lot more valuable for the campaigns. The county parties, you're going to see many, 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 many hundreds of people, depending on your campaign size, because right now you are sharing a My Campaign with the state party. And so you're seeing also all the other state party folks. After this month, knock on wood, we'll be doing a process that will actually make it so that you just see your people that you've added. So if you never added anybody, it might go back to zero. But and so it's worth reassessing this after we've done the severance process, which as a county chair, we'll let you know about. That's the only thing I'd add.
Okay. So to reiterate what Harmon was talking about is that as we've been combining state party data with data from the 2024 coordinated campaign, we've learned about how some of the information is structured in ways that we need to make some changes. So if your county has not been using My Campaign, you might still have people in there right now that are not in your county. They might be people from other counties. Harbin's talking about how we need to do some data cleanup work, and so that might change. So if you look at this today, it might look different a month from now. All you need to remember is Christy said something. I can't remember quite what it was. Let me go to training office hours. Let me go to data office hours if anything comes up. Okay, so I'm going to walk through the process here of how you will add a new person to My Campaigns. So let's say you had an event last week or 2 weeks ago. What you had a 4th of July Independence Day event, and you had a piece of paper where people put their name, email, phone number, and said, "Yes, I'd like to volunteer in the future." Maybe you have something like this. So what you would want to do is get those people into My Campaigns. So the first step for that is to look to see if they're already in My Campaigns. So the screenshot I have here is within My Campaign, I'm doing the quick lookup. And this is where you put in somebody's last name, first name, address, zip code, county, whatever information you have so you can find them. And depending on how common their first, last, other details are, you might need to be more specific. My last name is not super common. If you put Wake County, last name Boer, I don't know. If you pulled up 3 people, I'd be surprised. If my last name was Jones, it's probably going to pull up a whole lot more people. So you would want to put someone's first name as well so you can find them. Some basic kind of search hygiene. So you're going to put somebody's name in Quick Lookup, and the blue button in the bottom right says search. Then someone, in this case, the screenshot, it's no one showed up. So when you searched My Campaign, let's say you searched for me, I didn't show up. You can see where I've got the number 1, it says no results found. The next step is to hit this button I've labeled number 2 that searches My Voter File. So if the volunteer is a registered voter, they should show up in the voter file. So what I have here, this screenshot, I can tell I blurred out the name, but I put my husband's name. He didn't show up in My Campaign, but you can see now I did find his name around the number 3 towards the bottom. His name's Matt Eckert. I can see his name showed up in the voter file. So I click on the button next to his name, the circle, and then step 4, I'm going to hit the copy person button. That will copy his record from My Voter to My Campaign. So if you've got a list of 20 people who signed up for an event in the past, this is the process you would do to get them into My Campaign so you can manage your volunteer program there. I'll show you in a bit what it looks like to manage your volunteers in there. Now, let's say you are a county party and you're like, I don't have a lot of volunteers. I need to recruit some new ones. I have a couple of suggestions here for you. This would also work for you if you are a candidate and you're starting out and you have no volunteers in your My Campaigns. So for a county party, this first slide wouldn't so much work if you're a candidate with an empty My Campaigns. But for a county party, under volunteer management, which I talked about in the beginning, there are 3 groupings here that I've drawn a red box around that can be really helpful. These are more helpful the more actively you are using My Campaign. So the more you use this, this will get better and better for you. So one of the things I talked about that came up in the county party leader workshops, if any of you had a chance to attend those, is the idea of having a new volunteer welcome program. in your county? So if you have an interest form on your website and somebody fills out that interest form, we want to give them a call right away. We would call that person in this jargon here, that's a hot lead. So, a hot lead is anybody who was added to my campaigns in the last 7 days and is not yet scheduled for an event. So, if someone has filled out your general interest form, for example, and made their way into my campaign, I want to call those hot leads and say, hey, our next event is happening in 2 weeks. We would love to see you there and invite them. There are two other groups here, and these are these pre-built searches. One is active. So that's anybody in my campaigns who has completed one shift in the past 30 days. And then lapsed. So volunteers who have not completed a shift in the last 30 days. These can be shortcuts to build phone banks for volunteer recruitment. The way I would think about this is that I'm probably going to have a different conversation with these three types of people. So if somebody's an active volunteer, when I call to invite them to an event, I'm going to say, "Hey, really appreciate that we've seen you lately. Can't wait to see you again. Come to the next event." If someone's a lapsed volunteer, this might be someone who volunteered during the 2024 campaign, but hasn't volunteered since then. I'm going to reach out to them and be like, thank you so much for being involved with us last year. We are starting our Canvas program again this year, and we'd love to have you involved. A hot lead, I'm going to say, I saw you just signed up. Welcome. What can I help you with? We'd love to get you plugged into events. Let me tell you a little bit about what our county party does. So it's really a little bit about how you might adjust your script. Susan, I see your hand up. Go ahead. Oh, there you go.
Okay. Hi, my name is Susan Waleed, and I'm running for Leland Town City Council, which is a nonpartisan position. And I'm just wondering if this volunteer recruitment thing is all Democratic volunteers, and will it have any effect on what I'm trying to do as far as building my voter output or volunteers.
Yes. Okay. So a couple of so even in nonpartisan races, for any Democrat, registered Democrat who's running for office, the state party will give you Vote Builder access for free.
Okay.
In my voters, which is the voter roll, that's who the registered voters, that is Democrats, Republicans, unaffiliated, everybody. In my campaigns, if you just got or are about to just get your Vote Builder account, my campaigns will be empty for now. I will show you how to populate it. And my thought is, particularly when you're in a nonpartisan race, volunteers don't need to be Democrats. They just need to be supportive of you, right? So um, give me a couple of slots and I'll show you how you could potentially recruit volunteers to help you for your race. Although I would also recommend you start with the people who are in your Rolodex.
Okay.
Start with your friends and people who know you and believe in you. That's where I would start. And that might be sufficient depending on the size of your race.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. I saw a question in the chat. Is donating a type of volunteering? Not the way I'm using the language. Donors have different legal requirements. Candidates in counties have different reporting requirements. I'm really talking about people who are donating their time. In this context, that's what volunteer is meaning. Okay, so let me show you if you are using these three pre-built searches, which right now you would probably mostly be using lapsed, would be my guess based on where we are in the rhythm of elections. maybe hot leads. But when you select those pre-built searches, what you can see is there's a little caret pointing down. When I click on that, it brings up this menu that I've drawn a red box around. And you can then create a virtual phone bank directly from those three groupings: active volunteers, lapsed volunteers, and hot leads. I think that can be a good shortcut, particularly for county parties to use. There are other ways you can pull a volunteer recruitment phone bank. What I was just showing was really about using MyCampaigns to build a volunteer phone bank. Now, MyVoters might also be a place where you can find volunteer leads. And this is the process by which a candidate would potentially recruit volunteers. So within Vote Builder, there are two ways you could search for people who might be good volunteer prospects. First would be using activist codes in Vote Builder. And there is a subsection of activist codes, and I'll try to demonstrate this live when we get through the presentation. I took a screenshot here of some of the things you might see as activist codes in the volunteer grouping. So canvassers, phone bankers, poll greeters, poll observers, voter registration. You could build a search based on who in your county is marked with the activist code 2024 canvasser. You might want to build that into a phone bank and call those people and say, you canvassed with us last year. We are now doing canvasses to hold our congressperson accountable for helping pass Trump's horrible bill. Or we're doing canvasses about the judicial candidates. You could pull a list from MyVoters using those activist codes. And then there are also targets. So this is the screenshot of what it looks like when you're building a search for targets. And if you haven't built searches in Vote Builder yet, I encourage you to go back and watch the Vote Builder 101 session or attend when I do that again in a few weeks. But every county party, and I'm not sure about candidates, but Harmon will chime in here in a minute. But you should have targets you could pull that say 2024 CC volunteer, that's coordinated campaign. And there are two groupings here. So volunteers, this is going to be anybody who actually completed a volunteer shift with the Kamala Harris coordinated campaign last year. Then the other grouping is volunteer leads. So this would be people who filled out a volunteer interest form, perhaps, to get involved in the 2024 coordinated campaign, but did not complete a shift. So those for county parties in particular are going to be good lists to target to recruit volunteers to your upcoming events. Now, next week's Vote Builder training is about building scripts and using survey questions. There are 5 basic scripts that I think every county should certainly have, and candidates should probably have or build, or there may come a point where we can provide some of these. One of those scripts is a basic volunteer recruitment script that just says, hi, I'm calling from County Party to invite you to this event. Hope we see you there, kind of thing. When it comes to recruiting, a couple of things you can do to always be recruiting. One is for the county parties, you probably have your Mobilize set up. That's the website that people use to sign up for an event. And that can be integrated with Vote Builder. So everybody who signs up for an event on Mobilize is automatically added to your Vote Builder. I think most counties have this at this point, but if you're not sure, you could pop into Harmon's data department office hours and ask him about that. Also, I encourage you to include a volunteer ask in any of your scripts when you identify someone who is a strong supporter. That should always be, kind of how you wrap up the conversation with someone who is a strong Democrat, strongly supporting your campaign. Hey, awesome. I could really use your help to win, to help us talk to more voters, whatever your goal is. And if you ask somebody, are you up for volunteering? Will you volunteer with us? Yes, no. If that's part of your script, then when people say, yes, I'm interested in volunteering, that will help populate Vote Builder so you can pull that list from my voters of people who have said, yes, they're interested in canvassing. Okay, that was a lot. And I will hopefully get a chance to do a screen share. But before I talk about managing your volunteers, let's see, we got a question in the chat. So explain more about integrating with Mobilize. How do you do that? What do you gain? The data integration means you don't have to do manual data entry. I always encourage people to, county parties in particular, because we provide you with Mobilize access for free. Use Mobilize to post your events because people who don't yet know you might sign up. And when they sign up, then they're added to your version of my campaign. And so you can communicate with them easier. You don't have to do that data entry step I showed earlier about searching for someone. And it will help you continue over time to build your volunteer roster. I hope that helps. Harmon, you had a hand up for a moment. Did you want to add anything?
No, I just wanted to jump in for Mobilize, but you had it, so I didn't need to.
Any other questions before we talk about managing volunteers? Okay, I am going to jump in. So one of the ways I use Vote Builder and my campaigns the most is sending emails to people. What I do is I send emails to people who have attended my trainings, right? This is the process of how I do that and how I create a list to send an email to people in my campaigns. So for email distribution, I'm going to create my list. Once you've created a list in Vote Builder, in my campaigns, there is an export button. So you can export this list from my campaigns. Oh, let me back up one. Yeah, hit export, and then there's an export format drop down, and I use what's called email blob. This is what gives me the list of people's emails so I can send something post an event to say, thank you for coming. Here's our next event. Maybe beforehand, I could send an email that says, hey, I know it's going to rain tomorrow, but we're going to hand out umbrellas or whatever you want to send to people. Thank you for coming to our precinct organizing meeting. Join us for the county convention, things like that. So the drop down, the export format is email blob, which is what the number 2 is by. This is an important step. Customize that email blob export to only send to people's preferred email address. If you forget that step, at one point I had like 5 emails in Vote Builder. I don't need 5 emails on any one given topic. So this is just to like keep from spamming people and being irritating. So use their preferred email address. When I hit the export button, I blurred this a little bit for data privacy reasons, but it's given me a huge block of everybody's email. And I just hit like Command A, select all. And oh, actually, the button there says select all email addresses. And then I hit copy. I take it over to my Gmail and I paste it in. And I paste it in as a BCC. So that way I'm not sharing everybody's information and you don't have somebody reply all and say, please unsubscribe me from this list. And it goes to all, however many people again. So I encourage you to use the BCC email function as well. That is how you can communicate with the people in your My Campaigns. Any questions on that email export function? Okay. let's talk about events. And I think about events as like, before, during, after. So before events, what I recommend is that you make confirmation calls for your events. Um, and if your Mobilize is integrated with your Vote Builder, it's only a couple of steps to create a phone bank within Vote Builder to make confirmation calls for an event. Last year, I had a fantastic volunteer who made confirmation calls before my training events, and I was able to track the results over the course of the year, and it made a measurable difference in how many people actually attended my events versus people who were no-shows. So you might have specific volunteers who help you with confirmation calls. If you have volunteers who maybe are reluctant to call voters, having them make confirmation calls, I find to be an easier way to get people to phone bank. If I had time, I wish I had time. I like making confirmation calls. It's people who are already engaged, they're already excited. It's really about reminding them about the event. It helps us always improve the data. If I get somebody on the phone, let me make sure I got your email right too, right? Depending on your event, you might need to have an accurate count of how many people are actually going to show up. Maybe you're preparing packets for canvases. Maybe you're going to be meeting at the private room at the pizza parlor and it can hold 30 people and no more, or you need to know how much pizza to order. Whatever. It can be helpful to have a more accurate count of how many people are actually going to be there. And for people who say, oh gosh, no, I can't make it after all, I'm going to use that as an opportunity to reshift them. I'm so sorry you can't make it tomorrow, but we have another event in 2 weeks. Let me get you signed up for that one. Those are the goals of making confirmation calls. A confirmation call script is another basic script you want to have. It can be pretty straightforward. I'll show you the confirmation script that I have used in the process I use. So the first step is to create a search. And this is assuming that your Mobilize and Vote Builder are integrated. So the search criteria events next to the number 1. Step number 2, I'm going to include people. And then I want to find my event. So my events tend to be training. So step number 3, I've selected training. If you are a county party and you're not, I don't know, Wake or Mecklenburg that has dozens of events, you might not need that step. But step 4, events. Now, events, the word itself is in a light blue. What that indicates in Vote Builder is that you can click on that. That's a link. So when I'm going to click on events, and it's going to give me a way to narrow down and say what's today? July 14th, July 15th, what events were held. And I will select the event that is either coming up that I want to make confirmation calls for, or that already happened and I want to send a follow-up email. So I'm going to preview my results. In this screenshot, I was pulling up a list of people who had attended a particular training session. It was 22 people. I'll run that search as step 6. And then when that comes up, step 7, I can turn that into a phone bank by clicking on the calls icon. I use this confirmation call script, and next week we'll be talking about scripts, but it's, hi, this is Christy, I'm the training director. Step 1. Step 2, are you going to be able to make the training session? Step 3, you can add the event into your script so that you can update if somebody has confirmed, canceled, or if you don't reach them, you wouldn't change their status. And these are the steps to do that, where you would add an event into your script. This is kind of like a scripts 201 fancy thing you can do. And then, oh, I'm sorry, you can't make it. We're doing it again in 2 weeks. Can you make that? That's the script for a confirmation phone bank. After an event, there are 2 things that I do. You really should be closing your shifts. That's the jargon we use, where you go in and everybody who is signed up, at the end of the day should be marked as completed because they showed up, they did the thing, canceled if they told you they weren't going to make it, or no show. What this helps with in part is earlier on I was talking about the list you can pull about lapsed volunteers, active volunteers, or hot leads who are not yet signed up for a shift. To make that work really well, you want to keep track of who has in fact showed up for an event and who has not. I also then afterwards send my post-training emails and I use the email blog functionality. This is what it looks like to search for an event. So in the left-hand side, I've clicked on event list. You can see the filters that come up. The first thing I narrow for is the date range of the event I'm interested in. Because I work for the state party and we have access to a lot of information, when I pull that list, it shows a lot of things. If your county only has, one event a week or something, it'll be a shorter list. But I'm going to select the event that I'm looking for. So say tomorrow, I will look at today's training event for Votebuilder. And once I click on that, it will bring up this screen. And I'm going to go to the participant summary and click on that little caret next to the participant summary so that it expands. Now I can see for attendees how many people fall in each category. How many people were scheduled? How many people confirmed, canceled, completed? When I view all participants, then I'm going to go one by one under each person's name and change their status. After an event's over, and this is what our staff does, campaign staff in general does, everybody should be marked as completed, canceled, or a no-show after an event. Okay. Let me share a couple resources and then I'll do a live screen share and show you some of these skills and be thinking if there's something in particular you want me to demonstrate. I will share all these resources in tomorrow's follow-up email. I like to share the Living Library. It's a shared drive. There is a folder on Votebuilder that includes all these training slides and resources. There is a Votebuilder guide. It's a, I don't know, 50-page PDF document that is easy to search. So if there's something you're trying to do and you don't know the answer, you can search for keywords and find it there. This is the full Votebuilder training series. So we are at the green box in the upper right-hand corner, managing volunteer data. Next week will be scripts and survey questions. The week after that is Votebuilder 201 with some additional skills. And then I will go through the series one more time this year. I'm recording them, so they are also available on YouTube. Harmon has resources for you as well. So Harmon, every other Wednesday, and tomorrow is one of those Wednesdays, is doing a Votebuilder practice feedback review session. You can join Harmon during these times and get input and feedback on how you're practicing these Votebuilder skills. Harmon, anything you want to add about these sessions and what you're planning for tomorrow?
Just on a capacity level, it's kind of an either or. You can come to multiple sessions, but we ask if you want to learn or if you want to practice cutting turf, we make that entire session about that. And then the next session can be about something else, just on a module basis. And you can select multiple things. I'm just going to email you and ask you which one you would prefer to focus on for that session.
Okay, you were breaking up just a little bit, but I think we heard you. Also, and I'll include this in the follow-up email tomorrow, I think there were at least one, maybe two people in the chat who said you're running for office. I am kicking off our candidate training series next week. So I'll share these links with you, and there will also be a kickoff rally on July 30th at 7 p.m. with our chair, State Party Chair Anderson Clayton, and the other officers of the State Party. Then final slide, and I'll go into a live demo. Every department within the party has office hours. So the training department, me, I have office hours Fridays from 11 to 12. Harmon's office hours for the data department are Wednesdays 2 to 3. That's an opportunity to come pop into Zoom or Google Meet or whatever with us and ask questions and get some help in those sessions. So a couple of different ways that we can help support you as you learn these vote builder skills. With that, let me stop my recording